So I was just watching some videos about the possibility of Texas seceding, and what that was all about. Like Jeff Beck was interviewing, I guess, a senator or statesman in Texas about that. Something I was thinking about a little while ago, it's kind of reminded me of it, was the way we have a Bill of Rights. I think we should have a Bill of Laws. You know, you have these politicians who come with like a phone book sized bill that they don't want to let anyone read because there's all kinds of horrible things stuffed in there. Kind of stuff Nancy Pelosi and some of those other fucking communists in power like to do. I think we should just have an agreement to, just a set of laws, just basic one sentence, almost like the Ten Commandments, this sort of thing. I'm not a Christian, but just as a very basic example. And take away the power from politicians to make law. Obviously, they're not capable of having that power. I mean, I've heard about this, I guess, for that stimulus package, it's supposed to help struggling Americans who are not working because of the same politicians. I guess 70% of the money was allocated to countries like Venezuela and Ukraine. I think there's another one in there. And some other little Pelosi pet projects like a museum for women's rights or something like that. When it's supposed to be about giving money to people who have been out of work all this time because of these people shutting the country down. I mean, it seems like almost an act of terrorism that they're trying to commit to me. I almost think that we could run the country without politicians if you had a basic set of laws and a Bill of Rights and local and state government. I'm not really sure you need a federal government. And look what, like, say, the ATF's been up to. They're wishy-washy about the stabilizing braces for the AR-15 pistols. They've gone back and forth on that like 10 times, and then recently they were trying to say that those were short-barreled rifles, which would effectively cause 6 million or so Americans to become felons overnight. Plus, some of the things they were doing, they went after a company that makes 80% basically Glock loaders called Polymer 80. And there's some company that makes, I guess you could call them 80% suppressors. So you can make your own suppressor, and then if you did the right thing legally, you would file the paperwork with the ATF and register it. It would cost a lot less than actually buying one registered like I did. They went for some of those companies recently. I'm a little suspicious about that whole RV bomb in Nashville, Tennessee, when the ATF and FBI were there, like, right away. If anyone's familiar with Ruby Ridge and Waco, you know why I say that. But back to my first point, I guess. If we had a bill of laws and politicians could not make law, it was just, here's what you've got, that's that. The courts can figure the rest out. I think we would have a much more fair and balanced country. Or should things go like how Texas trying to secede set of countries, which I think that's going to be inevitable. I said a long time ago that Washington, D.C. is basically the modern day version of ancient Rome, and America is basically what Europe was back then. So, just as an example, like I live in Ohio, so if you could picture some of the Midwestern states or portions of them forming a country, it would basically be like what Germany became. You can pretty much see you can see the lines being formed sort of for different countries between like culture and accent and region, obviously. I don't see New Englanders and Ohioans and Californians and whoever else as one country. I just see us all as being different countries. Um, I read somewhere that Ohio is 4 square miles smaller than England. So when there's any doubt about whether we are capable of becoming countries, seceding, become countries, just compare my state to England. I mean, look at the history of England. They pretty much ruled the world until they gave the U.S. the keys to the castle, so to speak, after World War II. I think we are really limited on things we can do, and I think the best thing that could happen is if the country fell apart and became different nations. Everything seems so set in stone. Even when a president talks about trying to make all these big changes and they get into office and then it's business as usual. Watch some of those old Ronald Reagan speeches from the 1960s, and then look at how he acted as president. I mean, quite the contradiction there. And he's been viewed as one of the better presidents, at least by people on the right. I would like to see a country where we have obviously a Bill of Rights, a Bill of Laws, which are just as simple and laid out. I think we should have a monetary system which is decentralized and based on commodities. Kind of like how the stock market works for companies, but for things that we produce. I think that would be a more stable monetary system than what we have. If you look at just the history of the dollar with the Federal Reserve from 1913 to now, we've lost 98, 99% of the spending value of the dollar. What I mean by that is, what could you buy with a dollar before, or the very beginning of the Federal Reserve compared to now? I mean, I think probably a penny back then was worth more than a dollar is today. I also think that we should go back to something kind of a long history, the rights and duties of citizenship. That you could say that went back to Hellenistic Greece, definitely Rome, England. England had their archers who had to practice archery every Sunday. The colonies would have militias, and by the way, the militias were the citizenry. And actually, Ohio's first gun law was to require men to have musket, and it had to do with like if you didn't have a musket or powder, shot, bayonet, there'd be different fines. How ironic. I think we should go back to that kind of way of doing things. You know, the saying, a rifleman behind every blade of grass. Sort of like how Switzerland has their, like everyone's in the military, but it's different than how things are here. I think we should, all law-abiding citizens who would be eligible to vote should also be required to train at least once a month with a rifle. It would make it very difficult for any other nation to try and invade such a country.